Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me. I'm Ciara, the voice and hands behind Ciara T Designs, and today I'm going to sit down and talk to you guys about the market that I just had. I also have a mint tea. I have a bit of a sore voice, so don't be surprised if you see me sipping on it. Grab a drink and let's chat about the market. So a few questions I received, I just have some notes here. A few questions I did receive was, what market was I in? It was the Studio Fair Artisans Market here in Prince George, which is in northern British Columbia, Canada. It averages about 15,000 to 20,000 people. I think this year was a bit lower just because it fell on Halloween. So the market ran Friday, October 31st from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. The 1st and 2nd, so November 1st and 2nd, and they were 10 to 6 and 10 to 4 respectively. So that is the hours of the market. And of course, when I get to how much I charge and everything like that, please keep in mind these numbers are all Canadian. So obviously whatever country you live in, you'd have to, figure out the exchange rate for that. But all of my prices, all of what I've earned is in Canadian dollars. So that was the market that I was in. How do I package my cards for sale? Okay, so I package them in a sleeve with an angel slip, an angel policy slip, because if you look on any of the websites, you are supposed to do an angel policy that just says what the stuff you've used from. Every company is going to be different. So you need to, whatever products you use, you need to do research if you're going to sell them, because technically you don't own the art. It's a whole thing. Just keep it in mind. So I package all of my cards in a clear sleeve because of course people like to pick them up. You can't guarantee they have clean hands. So I package them in sleeves with a angel policy, and on that angel policy, because my sleeve doesn't open, it will actually say if there's anything sentiment wise on the inside of the card as well. Generally I don't have sentiments on the inside of my cards, but that's on that slip as well, just in case. You can have a look at my setup. I asked for a look at my setup, so I'll put in some B-roll here. I will admit that this setup was fairly aesthetically pleasing, but not as beneficial to selling as I would have liked. So you're gonna see me show you some clips of all of my setup, and the first thing I would change is I would have had it so my cards were easier to flip through. So anybody who is really interested in looking at the cards, we'd have to sit it on the chair and then they could flip through the bin like that, and it just was not a great setup that way. So keep in mind, this was my first large market. So this was a huge learning experience for me, and there are a lot of things I would do differently in the next one. So keep that in mind. Look at my setup, and if you see something you enjoy, you could definitely try it yourself. But I would change up a few things for the next time because I'm going to sign up for next year. So I think that I would more likely do a U shape instead, and have it so you can easily flip through the cards. They're a lot more easily accessible. So I need it to be a little less aesthetically pleasing and a little more functional. So that's my goal for next year. But I mean, it's a learning experience, and people still bought my cards. It was just they weren't as easily as accessible as I would have liked. So that's definitely something to keep in mind for my next year. Do I have pre-mixed sets of cards ready? I do not. I have all of my cards individually set in their sleeves, so you can go through and pick whatever you might like. So I don't do pre-packaged things, but I do a bundled deal, and I'll tell you about that when I talk about prices for my cards, but I don't have pre-made sets. My experience selling cards. So my experience was pretty good. I found that most people were really friendly. I tend to be quite friendly, so people usually respond with that, or alternatively they will say hi and then kind of walk away. I'm not a great salesman, I'll be honest. Sales are not my forte. However, I'm very passionate and friendly about what I'm doing, so people tend to resonate with that. So my experience went pretty well. Sometimes when you tell people the prices, you kind of get an eye bulge and people walk away. So that's always a thing, and we'll go into prices next. But Other than that, like nobody's rude. Nobody, I don't know. My experience was pretty great. It was some long days. Luckily, my mom was there with me, so she hung out with me and kept me company, and moral support for the long hours of the weekend. But yeah, no, it was pretty positive, I think. It's always was one of those things. I'm such a positive person that generally people respond the same way back. So I didn't really have any issues. I thought it was pretty good market. And then we're going to go into how much I charge for my cards. So my cards, I charge, and again, this is Canadian dollars, $15 a card, or you get a 3-card bundle for $40. And of course, that's any card, any size, any whatever. I kind of went to a flat rate on my cards because it made more sense to me than to maybe have like this card is worth $7 and this card is worth $5 and this, that kind of thing. So all of my cards are the $15, and then you can get 3 for $40. So a lot of people will choose the 3 for $40. So it's kind of like you get a bit of a discount if you buy more than one, and it has been generally fairly successful for me. So that's kind of my business model. I sold my watercolor bookmarks for $10, the tea pockets for $7, the slides were $5, and then my die cut stickers were between $4 and $5, depending on what what material it was made out of, because I have 3 different finishes for my stickers. And I will say that my best seller was probably my die cut stickers, shockingly enough. My next one would have been the tea pockets, the tea little envelopes that you guys saw me making a video recently, and then my cards would have been probably, I'm going based on volume. So if I only had, 20 tea pockets, and I only came home with 6, like obviously I have way more cards than that. So I'm going based on volume of what I took to the market and how few I brought home. So my cards were probably still my best seller just because they're the thing I have the most of. But I did notice that my die cut stickers and my tea gift card, like the tea advent, like the little pockets, brought more people in than anything else because they're quite vibrant. They're quite eye-catching, you will see from the display. So, it was, they kind of brought in the people the most. So that's kind of why I'm calling them my best sellers. But people did buy my cards. So as for the market, like I said, it was 3 days. And apparently this year, and now this is my first year, so I'm going off of what other small businesses told me. This year was down in people who came because it did fall on Halloween, and there was Blue Jays games on the Friday and the Saturday, which is a Canadian sports team. So if you were into, like a lot of Canadians were watching the sports, right? So that did show us a kind of a dip in attendance. So this year was slower than years have been in the past. So like I said, it was my first year, so I don't know. So I made, over the 3 days, I took home $740 Canadian again. But keep in mind, I did spend $400 on the table. So with that, I made $340 after I paid for the table, right? So I still think for my first year having very little experience in market, it is very good. I do have some stuff I want to change for next year. I have some ideas on stuff I'd like to offer. Like I want to do an advent calendar with those tea pockets. Like I want to make like a 12 and a 24 advent calendar so that people could purchase it and then they'd add their own tea and then give it to a tea lover as an advent calendar for December. So that kind of stuff, like I have a lot of ideas. I want to, make my die cut stickers better able to be seen in the display because I've changed my packaging so they don't really fit on those like risers that I had them on. You guys will have seen that from the display video I showed you there. But yeah, so there are a few changes I plan to make for next year. But I made my biggest thing for this year was making the table and getting all of the experience. I've read some stuff, where people say you have to be seen multiple times before people will buy because they want to know that you're reliable, that kind of stuff. So getting out in the community, getting seen by the community, hopefully will make it so people will seek me out. I handed out a lot of business cards. So if any of that, those cards kind of come back, or people email me, or people reach out, because I make custom journals. I don't do custom cards so much because I like to work with what I have, and I don't really want to purchase things I don't know would be useful. But I teach classes. I locally at one of our local stores, I teach classes there. So it's a lot of networking, and if any of that kind of comes to fruition, oh sorry, I'm gonna start coughing here in a sec. If any of those business potential connections come to fruition, then that would have been really good. So I treated this market as a huge learning experience, and I really wanted to make my $400 back, and then that would let me invest in the table for next year and take everything that I learned this year and make it even better. So don't get me wrong, the amount of money I made is phenomenal. I'm very, very excited about it. But I did kind of go in thinking that I might not make a lot of money. And compared to some of the other businesses, because, we all kind of talk, I didn't make that much money comparatively. But I'm also a very niche and specific business, and my products were not displayed in a way that made it really easy to tell what I had for sale. Like my bullet journaling stickers, they weren't even really out because I wasn't really sure how to display them, so some of those tweaks will be really important for next year. But this was a huge, great learning experience, and I had a lot of fun. I got to hang out with my mom for 3 days. She's one of my favorite people, so that was a lot of fun. And I think that I learned a lot, and I had a pretty interesting time. I think I answered all of the questions. If there's any questions I missed, please leave them in the comments. I will just respond to them instead of doing a video specifically on them. And I did drop my brand new digital papers recently. I think they're pretty great. If you guys want to check them out, you can. I've got a link for my shop in the description below. They are not, well, as of me filming this, they are not on my Etsy shop. They may be when I edit this and have it up for you guys. It just kind of depends on how I can get my schedule together. But I'm really proud of them, and you will see videos featuring them coming. Like, they'll be used on the channel for sure. I just was really excited, so I thought I would tell you guys about them now while we're having this quick chat about the market. And yeah, so any questions, let me know. If you leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday, and as you guys know, we're like in the thick of the 12 Weeks of Christmas series, so make sure you come back and hang out, and I will see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye for now.